This is my 15th year, I think, that I've been working with Neighborhood Alliance, and it's been a great partnership that we have with them. Um, I want to talk a little bit for just a minute before we get into everything. The Asphalt Roadshow is a program that we have put together that we talk about things like the payment distress and solutions. We also talk about asphalt basic 101. We talk about new technologies that's coming in the asphalt industry, and we just kind of take this all over the state of Oklahoma. Uh, so with day being National Pothole Day, pick out your favorite pothole and fill it up. So let's get started if you want to do this. I can't. You see this picture we have right here. This is actually I have a friend in Florida that sent this to me. This was a project that was being worked on or fixing to be worked on. And as you can see, it collapsed. It's basically a sinkhole in Florida, just right outside of Tallahassee. If your neighborhood looks like this, there's not a whole lot I can do to help you with this part right here. So anyway, but anyway, I thought it was interesting how that sinkhole and how the foundation that's underneath asphalt can really affect how things happen and how it works. But today we're going to be talking about some simple things that we see here in Oklahoma and I see on HOAs. And I was also going to say this too: if this is something that you want me to bring to your neighborhood or to your HOA, I'd be glad to. If you have questions and you have, let's say, for instance, you have a section of roadway that you want me to come out and take a look at, please let me know. One thing we have just done, we have been able to hire the former chief engineer of ODOT, and he has a heavy experience with maintenance. So we have somebody now besides myself on board that we can tag team this thing and actually come out and look at your neighborhood. So types of distresses, I'm sorry. Types of distresses, let me get this working right. Sorry, folks. And we're going to look at longitudinal cracking, not in the wheel path. Longitudinal cracking in the wheel path. We're going to talk about transverse cracking, block cracking, what we call alligator cracking or fatigue cracking, and we're going to talk about rutting. And these are all types of distresses that you see in Oklahoma, and there's always a reason why they happen. There's a reason, and there's a solution to that. So we're going to talk about the distresses, and then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about the solutions, things that can be done. Now, I was also going to add this to it, like Mary Katherine said, do not hesitate. If you have a question or a comment or you want some clarification, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it at the end. Or if it's something that's pertained to something that we're at, let us know. And Mary Catherine, I hope you're going to kind of look at that and kind of monitor that as we go through this. Thank you. So types of cracking, all payments are designed for a design life of 20 years. Now, most of the time it's AASHTO, that's the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, and they got different types of methods. One of them is what we call AASHTO 93. That's mostly what is used in Oklahoma for designs. There's another one coming out, or another one that's been in the last probably 5 to 10 years that's being used called mechanistic imperial design. And what that basically is, you're using different values and you're trying to use values that you are going to assume or estimate your cracking, rutting, things like that, so that you can actually beef up your payment just a little bit. But all payments have a finite bottom up fatigue life. And that's what we're saying there. If you don't maintain it, if you don't add thickness over time or increase it'll eventually fail. It's like a piece of wire. As you put that strain on it, as you're bending that wire up and down, it eventually will get so brittle it breaks. It was kind of the same thing when we talked about payments, and that brittleness will happen at the bottom of the payment structure and just come right up. It's catastrophic. It's fast, and we've done some things over the years so that we don't see that as much. Now we're looking at top-down cracking, and the top-down cracking is much slower. It's It's much easier to repair, and so we're going to talk about all this type of cracking that we have, that we're talking about. This is right here is what I'm saying. Cores tell the story. These are actual cores from streets in Ponca City. And you kind of get a timeline. You can kind of see what's going on. That far right core you see right there, that's bottom up cracking. That started at the bottom, went all the way to the top. Very catastrophic, very fast. That pavement right there was probably maybe at about a 10-year-old pavement, and it failed terribly during on the cracking when it did the bottom up cracking. That was the old way we used to design roads. We used to do what we used to call the O.A mixes, B mixes, and C mixes. Excuse me. And then we transitioned in 2000, excuse me, to super pave. Now, it's not making it any better, but it's a different way you design. And the way that you design it now, you actually get what we call top down cracking. So the far left one was from around 2002 when it was actually placed. And you can see, yeah, it delaminated. The different lifts and different layers of the asphalt delaminated, but if you look at the top of that, you can see that it was just a bottom down crack. If you look right there in that area, so that was so we knew had some problems. We knew we had to make some changes. The delamination probably happened either from water going through it, or it was something like not enough. There's a tack material that we actually use to make that bond between the lifts to stay and be good. If it's too light, then you'll get this delamination going. If you got water going through it will do that. There's two things that are actually just detrimental to asphalt. One is oxidation. It gets old, it gets stiff. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. And then water. Moisture, getting through it, going to it, get through it. What it does, the moisture actually strips off the binder, the asphalt cement per se, from off of it, and you get just nothing but rock, basically. So that glue is gone that holds it together. The core in the middle is we made changes in 2012, and this is about the same period right here, that actually increased the AC content or the binder content and made our mixes more durable and better. Let's put it that way. So let's talk about longitudinal cracking not in the wheel path. You've all seen this where the center line on a road starts to separate. It could be something that's reflective, and what I mean by reflective is something that's coming up from the bottom side of underneath this lift of asphalt. It could be, but like I said, we have a problem with oxidation here in Oklahoma. We're very hot in the summer. We get cool in the winter, and so what happens is, as this asphalt's sitting out there, it's in the sun, it's in the oxygen, it's in the heat, it's in the cold. That the binder gets stiffer, and what happens is asphalt's designed to expand and contract. Have you ever noticed on concrete, you'll every 15 feet you'll hit a bump while you're driving on concrete? Well, that's an expansion joint, and what you're doing is you're telling that concrete, because this is where we want you to crack at, is right here, so you can expand and contract as needed. Asphalt, you don't need that until it gets old, and that's when you start having problems. And what happens is, asphalt is elastovistic, is the best way I know how to describe it. It's like a basketball that it'll expand and it'll come back. Well, what happens is, as over time, it gets that stiffness to it, and all of a sudden, or hardness to it, and expands, and then it don't come back, and that's when the crack forms. Cold weather will do that too. It's called thermal cracking. If y'all remember in 2021, when we had those 21 days that we never got above freezing, we saw that same thing. We saw that really kind of escalate because there were some older roads that did not snap back or contract, and they cracked. And so we saw that a lot of times. So what happens here, if you see that material that's in the middle of that crack, it's rock. It could be, incompressibles like screws, nails, things like that. And this is with a simple fix just by crack sealing it. But what happens is, once that opens up, now you're getting into where now you get water in it. And what do we have in Oklahoma? We have freezing seasons, we have thawing seasons. So that gets down in there, that water will strip that binder off of it. And then you got this freeze thaw going on that'll expand and contract and all like that. So it's things that we see like this that gives us problems. So that's what you see in a longitudinal crack that's not in the wheel path. And that's what you normally will see is that binder gets so stiff that it will not expand and contract like it's supposed to. Longitudinal crack in the wheel path. Usually this is because there's been a load go across there that pavement could not handle. We see this a lot in some parts of western Oklahoma. Over the past years, we've seen an increase in one thing. That's windmills, okay? So what happens is, this unit right here on this trailer on this truck, that unit weighs somewhere between 50 to 90 tons. That's not including the truck that's hauling it. So what happens is we've got roads and especially out in the counties and the western part of the state that cannot handle these kind of loads. And so they go across there, even though the companies that put these up will cover that damage, it happens. And just because of the weight of the units. Oilfield's been around for a long, long time. And Oilfield, we got the same kind of problem with them going in and out of different plant sites and drill sites and so on. So it's something that happens because it's had a load. We see it especially with these older pavements that they get to the point they just snap and crack. Just put it that way. No other way to put it. Transverse cracking. These are cracks that go across the road. Sometimes they are reflective. Sometimes there's something going on underneath there that's making that move, whether it's lack of tack or something like that. It could be a structural deficiency on that. But a lot of times it's just thermal cracking that we'll see because it's lost that ability to expand and contract, and they get warm and they try to pop back, and all of a sudden they can't do it. And especially with these older pavements that we have. Here's another. This is actually on Highway 4, or I'm saying Highway 3, outside of Piedmont. That happened on this on Northwest Highway. Whoops! What happened there? Excuse me while I try to get this back. Okay, this is block cracking. Basically, this is not so much reflective as it is thermal cracking. And you see, you've got transverse cracking, you got longitudinal cracking going on. What happens is this is when that asphalt loses that glue from being so hard that it won't expand and contract like you want it to. So you see block cracking. That's what we're talking about on that. And the reason why we call it block cracking because it just looks like a block. This is actually the airport at Winoka a few years back before they overlaid it. You can see that they did a lot of crack sealing, but when they crack seal like that, it really identifies the block cracking that's occurring that you see. It kind of highlights it. Best way I know how to describe that. Okay, fatigue cracking or alligator cracking. Now we're talking about a failure, a big failure. This is something that's underneath this surface course, whether it's the subgrade, whether it's the base course, whether it's the asphalt base course. Something underneath there has broken down and is now cracking because it has failed. It could be as simple as water getting underneath that asphalt and causing problems and failing. So it's stripping them out. The water will strip that binder right off the rock, and so now you've got a failure because it's structurally deficient. So this is something that's it's easy. I mean, you're going to have to repair this before you do anything. So you're going to have to actually saw this area out, take it out, repair the subgrade, repair the base rock, repair the base or base asphalt mix, and then put your surface back on. So this is really catastrophic. There's not a whole lot you can do about it except repair it, because otherwise it's going to limit that ability of that roadway or that road to carry the load. Here's a little bit more of a better picture. This is actually out on US 69 over by McAllister. You can see right here, this gets a lot of truck traffic. This is one of the major connectors in Oklahoma for trucks between Dallas to Kansas City. So it gets a lot of loads, a lot of heavy truck traffic, and so on. You can see it failed pretty bad, and it's just basically what you're doing here is you're just giving it a lick and a promise when you start putting the patching material in there, like they have right here. Rutting. We have two types of rutting. The picture on the left, this is where something has changed, whether it's the traffic count, whether it is a asphalt that maybe or the mix has too much binder in it and it's rutted over time. It could be something as much as fines making the asphalt to be plastic or act like a plastic. The one on the right is actually what happens when fatigue cracking continues or alligator cracking continues. It'll actually rut. It's bad that from the aspect. This is actually, if you look at this one that on the right, it's actually, there's a test track that Oklahoma ODOT participates in down in Auburn, Alabama. We actually ship materials down to Alabama. There's actually 3 sections that Oklahoma ODOT sponsors, and it's from the aspect. So this is actually one of the Oklahoma sections on the north tangent. But you can see right here that it has failed. It's got alligator cracking in it, and what happens is as traffic continues to go over it, it will rut it. What they do down at the NCAT track, the test track, is they run 155,000 pound trucks, usually 6 or 7 of them in line. They run it for 16-hour days, 4 days a week, and then the last day, usually on Friday, or they do it on the Monday, that they will actually go out there and measure the distresses. They'll measure cracking, they will measure rutting, they will measure all these variables in there to double check to see what's going on, what damage has been done, how many actual easel, what we call easels, single equivalent axle loads that's gone across there, and why it did fail. So they're kind of digging that, and how they'll think about an equivalent single axle load is that it takes 18 cars to equal 1 easel. It takes 2.36 trucks, tractor trailer rigs to equal an easel. So that's how you kind of can relate to that just a little bit. And we talked about millions of easels. Down there at the track, they try to do 10 million easels in 26 months, which that is very accelerated. It takes sometimes for Oklahoma roads, it takes them 20 years to get to the point that they've got 20 million easels or 10 million easels. So that kind of gives you an idea. This is very accelerated down there. The one on the left, once again, or I mean the right, that's one that you're going to have to go out and dig it out. You're going to have to fix that subgrade, fix that base, fix that whatever failed underneath that surface course. Now, the one on the right or the left, it's going to be a little easier. It's actually trying to figure out why it did that. It looks like they have, and they've actually, if you look over there where the orange barrels are, they're already starting to fix it. They are out there milling it up, and that's the best way to do it. Mill it up and put a new surface course down on it to help it. This is actually a section out on US 69. This was because of the contractor down out there. There's a rock source in that part of the world that has 2 different benches of rock in the quarry. There's an upper bench and a lower bench. They want you to work with the lower bench, but sometimes they have to go to the upper bench to get to it, to get to the rock under the lower bench. So they don't tell you when they go from one to the other. Contractors are aware of this. Most of them, this contractor right here, did not know what was happening, and instead of trying to figure out what's wrong, they were their own worst enemy. That they actually put more binder in the mix to meet some certain criteria, and ended up that once they left the project, this is what you see right here, because they had too much binder in it, and it rutted because of the loads of the trucks and the cars and the vehicles going across it. So we're going to talk a little bit about solutions. This is not one of them. I mean, when you did this, when we did this, it almost gave our foreman a heart attack. But anyway, we got him over it, and he kind of adjusted and everything else. Are there any questions, Mary Catherine, so far?
Yes, we do have one question from Debbie. She says, we have a single road that circles our neighborhood built in about 2004, 2006. We are in the 20-year window. Has been resurfaced multiple times. I would like to know if there's a better way slash material slash vendor to resurface our road.
There, like I said, there's new technology. The super pave. A lot of times, we still have producers that are making the A, Bs, and C mixes. Like I said, we know what they do. You may want to sit down and maybe look at the mix designs that they're giving you, and I'll be glad to help you with the mix designs, that the mix of the asphalt themselves. So that's something we can do at OAPA to help. So we kind of know what works and what don't work. So please, if that's something that you're looking at, let us know. We'd be glad to do that. There's maybe some maintenance that we can do, and maybe some of the ideas that we have when we talk about solutions. So that may, if I'll have my contact information at the end. Please give me an email or a call, and we'll sit down and see what we can figure out. But there's things that you can do in between, and we're going to talk about solutions here. Something that we can do, some things that we can do in between to help the situation, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Larry. And
You are welcome.
Debbie's nodding her head.
I saw her nodding her head down there. So the payment types, and this is what I was kind of talking about a little bit, Debbie, is there's preventive, which we call proactive, and then there's corrective, which we call reactive. Proactive, preventive, it preserves the good condition of the pavement. So if you start seeing cracking, if you start seeing things starting to happen, you kind of get on it. It's one thing that we've seen. Kansas has some amazing roads out in southwestern part of Kansas, and it's because once they see a distress, they're on it. It's not like sit back and wait and see what happens. So by being proactive, it preserves a good condition of the pavement. It arrests the light deterioration. So you're starting to see, a little bit of raveling, or you're starting to see just these little cracks and there's stuff like that. There's things you can do in between the overlays to make it last a little longer. It retards progressive failures. That reduces the need for the corrective maintenance, which is more expensive, it's more entailed, and things like that. So after the deficiency occurs, it's usually more expensive. It really inhibits the load carrying abilities of that pavement. So now, have you kind of now have a bad looking pavement. Now you got something that's falling apart on you. So it's something that you have to kind of get back to. Waterproofs, in other words, get rid of you cover up those cracks, fill them up. Sometimes your slope surface, you get that slope back in, so that the water drains off of it. If you look at a highway for ODOT, say for instance, you got to have 2% slope so that water will drain off the side to get off to the shoulders, not sit on top of that pavement. And then one of the big things is friction. And what I mean by friction is the contact between your tire and the pavement. Skid resistance. That's the best way I know how to describe it. So if you got something that stays wet, and let's say you've got some tires that are getting a little bit bald, what happens? You're going to slide. It hydroplanes. So You get that surface roughness back in there. You get your that friction surface on back on there, so you get the skid resistance back. So there's things that you can do to really help yourself in between all these between the overlays. So some of the things we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about crack sealing. We're going to talk about fog sealing, slurry seals, micro surfacing. We're going to talk about chip seals. We're going to talk about thin hot mix overlays. We may, or just talk about overlays in general. So crack sealing is really routine maintenance. This is getting down. You're starting to see these cracks form. You'll blow these things out, the cracks, and then you'll reseal them with some type of asphalt or rubberized asphalt mastic that you're going to put in there. This is something that, say, for instance, if you have a homeowner association, have a bunch of young kids, it's great for them because they got the backs young backs that this not doesn't hurt them like it does as older people like myself. But so you get them cleaned out, you seal them back. It prevents the intrusion of water. Also, incompressible materials, rocks, screws, things like that, from getting in there and getting those cracks so they're not working like they're supposed to. And it's pretty routine. We have a company that is a member of ours called Craftco. They're up there off of Waterloo Road. And I've seen HOAs go out and I told them about it, that they actually go out and get their own, the machine that can rent it, and then they can actually apply it. But we do have companies. You can go to our website, okhotmix.com, and you can actually find several companies, our laydown members, and also our producer members that do this type of work too. So we got a list of all those people on our website. There's a lot of good information. And you can see right here, kind of, if you look at the extent of the problem and the stress type and what that does. For fatigue cracking, we talked about that. As long as it's low severity, it'll work very well. If it's linear or block cracking, it'll actually, you can kind of get in the between the high and severity, kind of the mid range, and it'll still work. But as far as for excuse me, for rutting, raveling, bleeding, roughness, and texture loss, it doesn't do any good, but it does help with the moisture loss as long as it's on the low severity side. So let's talk about some surface treatments. Let me get me something here. And we're going to talk about crack seals. We're going to talk about waterproof surface. We're going to improve surface texture, but rejuvenate surface. That, we talked about earlier how asphalt oxidizes over time. What you can do, a lot of these treatments that we have rejuvenators in them that will bring back that asphalt back to life. So we've got some things that we can do. Then you can improve profile, crown, and cross slope. So one of the easiest ones and one of the cheapest ones, if you start seeing these problems arise as far as cracking, one of the cheapest ways to do something, and we're talking about somewhere between $3 to $5 a square yard to kind of give you a price, is what we call fog sealing. You just go out there. Usually it's done. There's two ways. There's a couple of ways you can do it. But usually either you use a distributor or you use a wand, and you'll actually go out there and apply this fog seal. It fills up those micro cracks so that you can eliminate some of that water going in. It brings that life back, that pavement back up to life again, as far as with the oxidation being hard with the rejuvenators. It inhibits the raveling of the asphalt. The great thing about it turns it black again. So you can see that division or that separation between the shoulder and the pavement itself. So it does several things for you. This happens to be a taxiway. I'm not mistaken, I think it's in Poto, Oklahoma, that they applied this, and it worked really, really well. And you can see right here, fatigue cracking, block cracking is kind of marginal as long as they're even in that low severity, but they do work. Raveling kind of helps bring that back to life. And then, like I said, it also helps very much on the moisture damage. Slurry seal. This is really, really old school. Slurry seals were something that developed by the Department of Defense along with the FAA for airports. It was initially what they were designed for. And these were very rarely or very lightly used airports to bring them back to life. So if it was something that you had a lot of seal surface cracks, then you would use some really small, fine aggregates, which helps get your texture back. And then you would actually put it through this machine that you see right there. And it's kind of like a big squeegee behind that machine that's just sitting there squeegeeing that mixture of emulsion, which is in that type of asphalt, and the aggregate. Now, if you have graveling, if you have real hard oxidation, then you might want to step up to your aggregate size. And then if it was minor surface irregularities and restores the surface texture, then you're going to do the type 3, which has a little bit larger aggregate. But this was a very, very inexpensive way to take and save a runway, a taxiway. We've used it on city streets. I mean, back when I started in this business back in the 70s, this was a big deal. This is something that was, like I said, it's very old school, but it worked. Let's put it that way. And you can see here how well it worked as far as for the fatigue cracking, block cracking, the texture loss. It's off the charts because it did so well. You're adding that material back to it once again, skid resistance in that material, and it helped in the raveling. And once again, it did, as long as it's on the low severity side, it did great for moisture damage. Now we're going to talk about microsurfacing. This is not so much old school, but I'm going to say this, and I'm going to tip my hat to ODOT. If we had not done this back in the mid to late 80s, we would have probably lost a lot of our interstates and highways in Oklahoma. Funding wasn't there, and we had needs on our interstate. And microsurfacing was one of them that we used, and it was amazing. It's microsurfacing, a slurry seal on steroids. There's no other way to put it. And it inhibits the raveling, inhibits the surface oxidation, improved the texture on it. It filled the ruts, minor surface irregularities, and it sealed that pavement surface. This stuff was made up of very high grade friction material that we would use for frictions, for skid resistance. And then it had cement mixed with it. It had an emulsion mixed with it. And then it had what I call a super secret sauce that nobody would share. All the people that were doing this, that they would put mixture in there too, that nobody knew what it was, but they did. But it worked. Let's put it that way. I know how, like I said, if we had not had this, there was a lot of roads and interstates we would have lost back in that time. This gave us about a 7 to 8 year period in which we saw that till the funding got whole, and we needed that here in Oklahoma. And so my hat's off to ODOT for doing that. The machine that was used this was about $250,000 back then. I don't know how much they are now, but City of Oklahoma City had one of these, and it was amazing that they were doing about 100 miles a year of city streets with this. Now, like I said, 7 to 8 years about all you're going to get out of it. But like I said, it helps. Let's put it that way. It's a very good preventative maintenance machine program. What happened to them was that they didn't realize you have to take care of the equipment. And basically, when they did a complete overhaul of their microsurfacing machine, it got to be just about as much as what the machine cost. So they turned around and instead of putting their money in this, they went ahead and bought them a laydown machine and actually doing some of their own laydown work. And you can see what happens here is that's a big squeegee on the back of that machine that you see right there on that top picture. And and then the bottom left picture is what you see. It comes out almost a chocolate brown. And then in 45 minutes to an hour, it turns that dark black, and you can't even drive a nail in it. That's how hard it got. So it was something that we used, we knew that we had, and it worked. And you can see how well it did right here with the different, excuse me, with the different fatigue cracking, block cracking, rutting. You could actually fill up a wheel rut with this material and then come back and lay all the way across the driving lane. And you had a good, it got rid of the rutting for you. Raveling, bleeding, roughness, texture loss. It was super on the texture as far as getting that skid resistance back. And then it also sealed off on moisture damage. And we have several companies that do this, or we have a couple of companies that do this in Oklahoma. Chip seals, another old school. We're starting to see this come back more and more. It's actually using an emulsion. That black, if you look at that upper right hand picture, you'll see that black on the existing surface, and you see the machine actually applying the chips to it. It's real simple, real easy. It's very inexpensive compared to doing an overlay or something like that. And it seals the pavement, increases that surface texture, and addresses surface distresses. One thing you have to be very conscientious of is if that does not that bond does not happen between the oil and the chip, then what you get into is that you'll also start having windshield butt breaks and stuff like that. So those chips coming up and hitting your windshield of the cars and vehicles. So be very aware of that. Sometimes they do what is called a double chip seal, in which they'll apply the first set of chips down and then come back and spray some more and do a double seal on it. And now there's also fog seals and things like that they have developed just to put on these old chip seals to keep that aggregate held together. After you put the chip down, you would usually run a pneumatic roller across it, get them embedded in that emulsion. And then you would have if you look in that bottom left-hand picture, you'll see that orange machine right there on the right-hand side of it. Excuse me. And that's a brooming the loose chips back over on to the riding or the driving surface. And this is really old school right here. This is what we call a scrub seal. We're seeing more of this being used by the counties. We're starting to see more of these being used by the tribes. Basically, they apply, if you look at that right-hand picture, you'll see a distributor in front of the brooms, and you'll see that emulsion being applied. And what this broom trailer does, it just brooms that material right into the cracks, into that surface. So it fills up those cracks. And then normally what they would do is come back and put a real fine chip on it, and you're good for a while. You can do that. But the beauty of it is that you can actually do this and put that fine chip on it and then turn right around maybe 2-3 years when the funding's there, if you're a county or the tribes, and you can actually put asphalt right on top of it. And if you look at that left-hand picture, you see that wave of emulsion right there in front of the broom itself. So let's talk about overlays. They definitely, this is probably something that there's other answers other than saying doing an 1 or 2 inch overlay. We can actually got a thin lay that we can actually lay less than 1.25 inches. We got one material we call an S6 in Oklahoma that you can actually lay that 3/4 inch, and it works very, very well. And the 3/4 inch of asphalt goes a long ways. So it improves the smoothness, surface texture, addresses surface distresses, and then improves the profile, the crown, and the cross slope on that. So that's things that you can actually do with the laydown machine. Say it's flat right now, you've got a drainage problem that's not getting off the roadway. You can actually go in there and you can adjust the screed, which is the back part of that machine, and you can adjust it so that it's a little bit lower on one side than it is in the center, and you get that drain going and working for you. And you can see everything's off the chart as far as raveling, rutting, bleeding, roughness, and so on. So this works. This is a good way that you can do it. It's probably the most expensive thing that you can do, but there's things that you can help lessen that cost. Like I said, a thin lay, so something like that that you can do that will actually save you some money, and you can lay a lot of asphalt or a lot of roadway with a less amount of asphalt. We've got one district in Oklahoma, District 1 in Muskogee. They're actually using a lot of this S6 I was talking about on US 69, and it's working. And it was supposed to be just kind of a short term fix, and end up that it's now lasted 10 years and still going. So there are other answers. So the right treatment at the right time on the right project extends the life and serviceability of that lower life, and also lowers your cost effectiveness or your life cycle costs on that as a whole. Now, I want to say this. One thing all developers are supposed to do, especially in Oklahoma City, and I think Norman too, is that whoever developed that or does develop that addition, they're supposed to turn in a plat, so to speak. Usually, these plats, not only does it have the lots on it, these plats actually have where all the utilities are, your sewer, gas, water, uh, uh, and also it'll have if your electrical is underground. I live in a housing addition that our electrical is underground, so the plat will actually show this. But the other thing it does, it will actually have a typical section of what you have as far as your street. So it'll show, like for instance, the what the base material is, what the base asphalt is, what your surface is, and how thick they are. I would recommend very highly. You can go to if you're in Oklahoma City, you go to the building. They're not City Hall, but the Public Works Department, seventh floor, and you can actually go up there. You can get a plat of your addition, and I highly recommend that for several reasons. Not just because of the typical section for the asphalt, but also because of all the utilities and where everything is marked, where you know where it's at. So I would highly recommend that seventh floor at the Public Works Department, and you can get those plots or those plats, so you'll know what's going on. Now, City of Norman, I think it's also through their Public Works Department, but I'm not sure exactly where in their offices where that's at. I want to talk about the Pacer manual. Mary Catherine's talked about the Pacer manual. It stands for Pavement Surface Evaluation and Rating. This is developed by the University of Wisconsin in Madison through their Transportation Research Center. It's a great book, and the reason why I like it so much, it gives you pictures. It explains what the distress is. It explains why it happened. And it gives you a rating system that you can actually rate it. Or are you a 5? Are you a 6? Are you a 10? Are you a 1? So she has an electronic copy of it, and I asked her to share it with all of you so that you can have it, because it's good. The other thing I like about this manual, and is that we got permission to be able to use this, but it also gives you solutions. It'll give you ideas what you need to do, and so that's why I highly encourage you, when you get this, to keep it, put it in your HOA paperwork and everything else, so that you can always draw back to it. So I highly recommend this manual. They also have one for concrete, and so that's something that you can also look up online, and you can get a copy of that if you have concrete in your house, in your addition. So with that, I know it's not 8 o'clock. So anyway, sorry about that. I didn't think I'd be that long, but just in case, but I didn't know how many questions I would have. This right here, most of the contractors in the state of Oklahoma, several of them use the hum roller. This was the first one they ever manufactured back in the day, back in the 20s, I think. So it's kind of a neat picture showing them all proud of it and everything else. And that's not me on the far right, I guarantee that. But anyway, Mary Catherine, I'll turn it back over to you unless we got some questions.
We do. We do have another question from Debbie, which is, can the city be responsible for constant water on the road due to their infrastructure? And she also asks if the slides will be available after this call.
Yes, I can send you the PDF copies of the slide program, and then you can share with them without no
Okay.
problem. I'll do that.
Actually, you know what, Larry? You sent me the slides. I can turn them into a PDF and send
Uh,
it out and save you that
Fantastic. Yeah,
step.
that'd
Okay,
be great.
great.
That'd be fine. The water systems, probably what you're seeing is water coming from if it's a irrigation system for the grass and everything, it's going to be kind of hard to put that on City of Oklahoma City or the city, say for instance. Um, there's things that you can do for to prevent that water from getting in. Usually, what you'll see is a separation between the toe, the gutter, and the curvy gutter. You'll see a little separation between the asphalt and the concrete on the toe of the gutter. Sometimes you have to go back in, blow those out, reseal them, and that'll kind of help prevent that. A lot of times, what you get into with developers is that they're trying to get in there, they're trying to get it done, they're trying to sell lots because they want to get some of their money back and start developing their addition. So sometimes, and now I will say this: City of Oklahoma City, you can actually go online and you can find their specifications and their typical sections even for private developments. So that's something that you might want to do is to see where they're at, because it may be something that I mean, if you want to take your gate down, if you're a gated community or gated HOA, you may, if you talked about maybe uh, get it to or get the city to take over. Well, there's certain criteria you got to do and certain specifications and typical sections that you have to get to before the city will take over. Now, they will assist you in the funding to do that. They will put a assessment on your house that you'll. I think I can't remember if it's 15 years or 20 years to pay it back, but they will do that and help you, and then they will contract it out for you to bring somebody in and get everything up to City of Oklahoma City standards safe. But normally, it's if it's a gated community, the city won't touch it unless you get it up to their specifications.
And I think that the city of Norman is even more reluctant to do that.
Yeah, I think they are, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, are there any other questions from folks? Oh, okay, we have one from C Nice. What do you recommend for a neighborhood developed in 1930s with surface drainage over the roads?
Oh wow, that would be one I would love to come out and take a look at if that would help. That way I can once I see or Brian can see my deputy director. It's something you can figure out and see what you need to do. If it's relatively flat and not draining, it's gonna have to take something to raise that center line up, and we're not. Then actually, what you're trying to do is get that center line up so you get that 2% slope or some kind of slope so it takes it to the curb and gutter sections, if you got a curb and gutter section. Now some of my development, we don't have curb and gutters, we just got kind of an area that goes off to a drainage ditch, but we've got that slope in there.
So I really want to reinforce to all of you that Larry is not blowing smoke when he says that. He's been helping neighborhoods and he's been working with the Neighborhood Alliance for 15 years. So if Larry says that he wants to come out and look at your roads, he really does. And I would
Yeah,
highly recommend that you reach out to him and take advantage of that.
that's one of the things that we have done, no matter if it's an HOA, ODOT, city, county, whatever. If they have a problem, call us. We'll be glad to come out and take a look at it.
Larry, one of the I know that we have at least one participant here who had reached out to me before this workshop. they mostly have gravel roads. Do you have any recommendation for resources to help neighborhoods that are deal less with asphalt and more with gravel?
The main thing there is with gravel. Probably one of the things that you're getting to happen as it gets dry, like we are right now, it'll start washboarding on you. In other words, you got ripples in the gravel. So it's something that that is simple as just going out there with a blade. If it's something that you want to maybe seal up, you can do a chip seal, and it will work perfect. In other words, you go out there, you shoot the oil, put your chips on top of it, works great. That's the way we used to do it back years ago. So I mean, there's things you can do. There's actually some material that you can actually get, or some applications. If nothing else, just go out there and put a prime on it. That will help hold those chips in, keep the moisture in that needs to be there, and it'll actually keep moisture from going into and making your problem even worse. So there's things that you can do, that's something I'd be glad to talk to somebody about too. But there's things you can also do to help you there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Larry. We have another question from Stephanie. We assumed the HOA from the developer approximately 1 year ago. The developer did not have a lot of funding in our HOA account, but we definitely have areas in our neighborhood that need attention. Where do we even start with having Larry come out? This feels like a very uphill project for the board.
That's one thing I like doing with HOAs. I love to go out, look at what you have, and that way I won't do it, but I can help guide you as far as a plan to what you may have to do your HOA dues to help build that account up, so that once you get to a point where it needs something done, you can get it done. Let's put it that way.
It sounds like, Larry, you could sort of help maybe with prioritizing.
Yes,
Okay, great.
love to.
See, Larry's not kidding when he says this. So Stephanie, I really hope you'll reach out to him. I think you'll find it very helpful. Any other questions from folks?
I'm sorry I didn't keep you all till 8 o'clock. I guess we can have a 200. I got a pop up quiz that we can do 200 questions if you want to.
Um, Pass. So I want to make sure I will send an email to everyone with the PDF of the slides, and I will also make sure that I include Larry's contact information so that you can reach out to him. I just want to remind you that the Neighborhood Alliance is here to help you. If we can help by facilitating technology for you to have a HOA board meeting and talk to Larry, if we can facilitate helping you prioritize a plan once you've talked to Larry, or once you and your HOA have gotten together and developed some priorities, we are happy to help you in any way that we can. And one of the things that, as a representative of the of the Neighborhood Alliance, is I want to remind you that these are the reasons that being consistent with collecting assessments is so important. Collecting money is hard, and you're going to hear a lot of stories, people who want a break or need a break, and you're going to feel sorry for them. But the best thing I can say as a representative of the Neighborhood Alliance is do everything you can do to be consistent about collecting your assessments and being realistic about what your budget is. We've talked to some groups where they had terrible problems with their road, but they really wanted to put in new playground equipment. And so really what they were just doing is they were just doing deferred maintenance on their roads, and it was going to end up being more costly later. So we really recommend being really careful and planful with your board and with your organization, and making sure that you maintain that consistency with assessments.
Yeah, don't hesitate to holler, folks, if I can help in any way.
Okay, Larry, I always appreciate you. I always say I've never known anybody who could make asphalt as interesting as you can. I really enjoy your presentation. And I just appreciate you so much. And please, 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 Larry's contact information is on the screen right now, but I will send it to you. But please understand that he is sincere and he is real when he says that he is happy to hear from you.
Saul, do
So,
we have another question pop up real quick?
that was the person that had the question about the gravel appreciated getting some information. And Mary, I really hope that you will call Larry or email him because I think he can be helpful to you. And we're just getting some really nice compliments for you on the screen now, Larry.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'm sorry. I'm from Arkansas and I talk a little slow and I like to talk. And the other bad thing is that I love to talk about asphalt. So sorry about that.
Well, we appreciate you. We really do. So thank you so much, Larry, and everybody else. If we're not going to do the 200 question pop quiz, then I guess we can all get back to whatever we were going to do this evening. Larry, you really are getting a lot of really nice compliments in the chat. So thank you
Uh,
so much.
Please, whatever I can do to help. Like I said, there's 52 years of experience right here talking. So if I can help in any way, let me know.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Everybody have a good evening.
All right. Take care.